And buenos dias. Howdy. And we are welcoming a first. Miss Tanya Henderson is, at least for the moment, joining us, blessing us with her presence this morning on Steve's I Need Coffee live stream. Good morning, Tanya. Good morning, sunshine. How's it going? And this is episode 162 on the glorious day, a Friday no less, of April 11th, 2025. Good morning, Ted. Good morning, Mo. And I have 3 cups of coffee ready to go this morning because I'm pretty sure I'm going to need it. I've run out of coffee, that is, on several prior episodes. Yes, Ted. Wow, Tanya. Exactly. My sentiments exactly. My own partner never watches my live stream, so I do not know what has motivated her. But anyway, good morning. And hello, DF. Greetings. Come on in here. Grab a cup. Cheers. Cheers to non-hotel coffee. Can we just agree on that? It was not great. Okay. Ask questions, comments, Twitter, YouTube, or Twitch. Come on in here. What are you up to? I was hanging out in Vegas this week with a bunch of crazy Business Central nerds. Yeah, it's kind of hard to explain to friends and family or your kids. Like, why did you go to Vegas? Oh, to hang out with about 1,300 accounting and software nerds. It's the strangest thing in the world. So, greetings. Come on in. Okay, let's just do a quick audio check. It sounds like things are working. Yep. Okay, we are live. And hello, Reno. Greetings. Buenos dias. Buenos tardes. Buenos noches. The weekend, el fin de semana, and this seems like a month ago because it was a week ago. And last Saturday, I was last live stream. I was kind of sick. I was fighting another bug my kids gave me. And I dragged myself out of bed on a Saturday because my wife decided to go on a full day hiking trip somewhere. And so I had the Mr. Mom job of taking my daughter and her 2 friends to Huntington Beach to get a fire pit to have a bonfire with a dozen kids. So had to pack up the car with wood and picnic stuff and drive down to Huntington Beach and pay the $15 parking fee to drop them off. Yep. So we dragged everything out to the beach, got them set up, and they had a fun day at the beach. But my day was not done. I had to come back. I had to drive to Long Beach a couple hours later, and I had to pick up over $700 worth of boba. You heard that right, folks. I picked up a full boba bar kit from a boba restaurant in Long Beach, California. And this was for the high school prom on Saturday night. Now, imagine an SUV with the seats folded down, completely full of bins, boxes, and bottles and boba. It was a full truckload of boba. I then had to drive another 30 or 40 minutes to Anaheim to deliver that, take it upstairs, of course. Take all this stuff upstairs of the venue and help set up the boba bar. But I was doing my dad duty and it was interesting and fun. Apparently the prom went well. And then I got about 4 hours of sleep or something. And on Sunday morning, I flew to Las Vegas, lovely Las Vegas. Yep, so there is us landing at former McCarran Airport, for those in the know, wink, wink, now named like Harry Reid Airport for the Nevada State Senator, I believe, Harry Reid. And so that got me to Las Vegas, and I attended Continia Partner Day. Oh, and also, for those regular watchers and listeners, you will know that I donned my color arbitrage headphones that I got at a discount from Amazon, I think. And I will say, I think these Bose do a better job, noticeably better job of blocking airplane noise than the AirPods Pro, the little in-ear AirPods. AirPods do a pretty good job, but they just don't quite have the same level. They can't really block out that much noise. So the Boses were pretty nice. So I traveled in peace, did a little work, and yeah, it was good. So good purchase. And I arrived after the Continia day. I checked into my funky hotel. Yes, Nevada U.S. Senator Harry Reid. Checked into the Virgin Hotels Las Vegas, which I didn't even know existed. And the reason I did not know existed is because I forgot that it was the former Hard Rock Hotel, which I never went to. I'm aware of it. I don't remember that it was sold or whatever. It was converted over to the Virgin Hotels, and funky. That's about all I can say about the Virgin Hotels. I would not want to stay there personally. It wasn't bad. It was relatively nice in some respects. Tanya would choose to disagree with me, but yeah, like they have this funky furniture. They have funky light switches, funky lights. Like everything was just kind of a hassle. So yeah, I'm just a simple person. I do not need to be impressed by a hotel room, especially with the rates that I paid, because I was a sucker and I paid for my hotel through the conference registration website. And Tanya didn't let me forget that all week. And then after the full Continia Partner Day, which I was like just barely hanging on with a headache and I was just so tired, we went to Hofbrau House across the street for dinner, thanks to Continia. And apparently it's a novelty, and apparently people go there and enjoy it. Not really my speed. If you've ever been to one of these, I've been to 2 in recent years. There was a conference, I think there was one in Fargo that did that there. Not really my thing, but yeah, interesting. I guess if you're into German beer and you like being paddled and having beer slides on a ski or whatever, flights on a ski, weird things like that. If that's your speed, Hofbrau House is the place to be. So I was pretty wiped out over the weekend. It was a busy weekend because essentially for me it was a full day at the conference, flying there, attending the Continia Day. So obviously, Directions NA 2025 Las Vegas. I had 2 presentations there. we looked into, or we are currently researching a customer statement oddity. David's working on that. We have a mystery PTE installation that just popped into a customer's environment. We have no idea how. Alyssa's looking into that. We are learning about the binary stream MEM runtime packages, for which I have minimal knowledge, so this is new to us. I know this is a thing for nav people. I've heard the words, don't know what it means, and we're going to learn that. And then external API integration plus MEM, it is a double whammy of landmines that we are navigating there. So let's have a sip. Monday, lunes, we attended the Directions NA 2025 keynote where Microsoft, Mike Morton from the, I don't even know what team or what his title is these days, but is effectively head of the Dynamics product line, among other things. Mike Morton announced that Business Central Online, which is an interesting distinction that I noticed there, it's assuming they're not including Nav, which I assume is they're not, 45,000 customers using Business Central Online. And my impression is that that is quite significant. That's a huge amount of growth. And I believe that far outpaces NetSuite, one of the major competitors to Business Central. So just absolutely massive growth to the BC Online customer base, which is good. Growing pains, obviously, but pretty impressive. And AI, Copilot, AI, etc., just nonstop. Like, that's all we heard. It was a little tiring, but if you're into that thing, cool. And they announced, they said Business Central, the AI first Business Central application. And I would say that's fairly accurate. They are just pouring a ton of AI and Copilot into Business Central. Is it usable? Up to you. Is it useful, valuable? No idea. Is it on your top 10 list as a customer? I'm going to guess probably not. I'm going to guess you have about 10 things, 20 things on your wish list that do not include the words AI or Copilot or agents or anything else. But that's where they're going, folks. It's the fashion du jour. And they really push these AI agents. And the subtle message is people are going to be unemployed, eliminated, headcount reduction, whatever you want to call it, a RIF. And the explicit message was humans with assistance, human-led agents, and then agent-led work, meaning supposedly, I wouldn't bet on this, supposedly agents will complete tasks autonomously. So interesting times we're living in is happening so fast, I don't know what to make of it. So we'll see how this pans out. Given how completely convoluted some of our customers' business processes are, good luck to the poor agent that is tasked to try and figure out some of those tasks. I had dinner with my friend, which I'll mention, and she was explaining what she has to do in order to reconcile their sales across 4 companies. And it's just a nightmare. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure how an agent can sort out that mess, just because all the data sources are a complete mess. So until you clean up the processes and the data flows, I don't know how agents can make heads or tails of what's going on. And there is a new capability guide that apparently was released. It is aka.ms/BC capabilities. I have not looked at it. I'm sure it's a lot of marketing stuff, but it might be a useful brochure you share with customers about the cool things BC can do. And it may serve as a sales collateral if you're in a competitive situation with other applications. So BC has a lot of great features, so I would think it should be highly competitive in most areas against, NetSuite, Acumatica, Sage, the usual suspects. And then, ta-da! Finally, thank you I don't think it does everything I wanted to do, but they apparently purchased the domain businesscentral.com. And to this day, I barely remember how to get to Business Central to log in. I always have a bookmark, so I'm just like, okay, is it dynamics.business? No, it's businesscentral.dynamics. Yeah, but then it takes you somewhere else. And so businesscentral.com is apparently the place. It looked like, when I glanced at it, it looked more informative, like sales related, but maybe there's a way to click on sign in from that point. I'd love to just go to businesscentral.com, kind of like system.netsuite.com. That I can remember, even though I don't even use NetSuite. I know it's system.netsuite.com. Give me app.businesscentral.com. Like, throw me a bone here. Just make it easy, because I can barely remember my children's names. Okay, and then I attended a presentation by the preeminent Business Central Web Services and Related Technologies expert, AJ Kaufman. And if you do not know AJ Kaufman, I don't think anyone would argue that he is the number one expert in the world on anything Business Central Web Service related. Just hardcore. He loves the stuff. He digs into it, and he does things that are just, you're like, I didn't think that is even, I wouldn't even imagine it's possible. So he had a great session. It was a bit of a Trojan horse. It was great. All you need to know about Business Central webhooks. And I was like, oh, okay. I've never used webhooks. I've heard of them. I've asked him about them, and he generally said I wouldn't recommend them. So I was kind of intrigued to see what he would say here. And because I'm such a hip dad, I'm a social media influencer, I have a meme that just sums it up. And if my big head weren't in the way, it is the Drake meme: BC webhooks? No. BC business events? Yes. So that was the message of his presentation. And he went through what webhooks were. Amazing presentation. He's a fantastic presenter. And in a few minutes, he explained what webhooks are, how they work. He demonstrated them. And then he just went on to list a litany of shortfalls, problems, and difficulties, and absolutely why you should never bother to use them. It was pretty brutal takedown of BC webhooks. But then he countered quite smoothly over to why you should instead use Business Central business events, which are completely neglected. I hadn't heard of them until he told me about them a month or two ago. And so check out BC Business Events instead of webhooks. Pretty cool. And my impression from looking at the documentation is that BC Business Events were created in order to support Power Platform and Fabric and whatever that is, kind of the greater integration from Business Central to the Fabric ecosystem, whatever that thing is, and data lake and data pool and data kiddie pool and data pond and data puddle. That's my impression of why Business Central Events was created. And if you understand webhooks, just so many limitations, it's not even viable. So anyway, Christopher says, Biz Events will be useful for Power Platform. Hopefully, because I'm not a huge fan of Power Platform and BC at the moment. Always something to consider when creating a solution. Yes, so I think I would personally be interested in business events more for a direct, like a web service type webhook style integration to get events fired off to external systems that we're integrating for customers. I am extremely skeptical about the Power Platform, Power Automate, Power Apps. And I'm going to be chatting with someone about that because I believe it was AJ who also did a session about Power Automate and BC. It's half-baked, in my humble opinion. It is seriously flawed, not smartly implemented, and there are just too many limitations in the 17 layers of the stack they're having to go through to make it happen. Not their fault. They're just dealing with the tools they're stuck with. But yeah, so I would be much more interested in direct access to BC business events rather than routing it through the Rube Goldberg device called Power Platform and Fabric. And So yeah, Christopher says he agrees. And Christopher says it still needs work. I'm skeptical. The amount of work required would be a full re-engineering and starting from scratch. So that's just me, not trying to be a downer, but as a dev, the more direct access I have to the system, the better. The more layers between me and that system, no bueno. So that's why I'm skeptical. But hey, happy to be proven wrong. And I've seen how the sausage is made. And if you've seen some of the support issues that occur in Power Platform, side note, I was speaking to someone who said, well, what about Power Automate integration with BC? And I've explained this before. Unless your customer can tolerate 7 full days of 100% downtime on Power Platform, Power Automate, Power Apps, whatever, 7 full days, do not use Power Automate. That's my recommendation. And customers are like, whoa, what are you talking about? Because I've seen the support tickets. I've seen the outages. I've seen that downtime notifications. And I've seen the people go live on Power Automate, Power Apps, and then have a connector break and no one can do anything about it. And some obscure team and some obscure division of the Power Platform team needs to fix that. 7 full days to get through their release cycle to fix the issue. So that's why I do not touch that. Anyway, on Monday night, we went out to an MVP dinner and had a great time. And we went to awesome selection. I think Tanya chose this, if I'm not mistaken. Incredible choice, because this is Batista's Hole in the Wall restaurant in Las Vegas, Nevada. And this is an absolute iconic, just legendary Las Vegas Hole in the Wall location. And it was established in 1970 based on the Hole in the Wall gang. And I used to go to this restaurant over 40 years ago when I was a kid in Las Vegas. And I think the last time I've been there was over 35 years ago. Still there, still the same place, still all the stuff hanging off the walls. Pretty crazy. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's 5-star dining, but it's got ambiance and character, shall we say. It's definitely a hardcore local Vegas place. And if you appreciate that, it's awesome. If you want something more modern, it's probably not your speed. But we had a great time. And there was Christoph and Tanya and Kine and Shannon, and then Chris right next to me. And then we had Tanya and AJ. We had 26 people at this table, and it took over 3 hours to have dinner there because we had such a big group. It was a little painful. And people ended up climbing into the corner booth to take this photo. They were not happy, but there were 26 of us. So what are they going to do, right? They couldn't quite tackle us all. Unlike the Virgin Hotels Las Vegas security staff, the Batista's Hole in the Wall security staff could not take us down. So there we go. It was a great dinner. And check it out, folks. I was at the conference. I don't know what day it was, day 1, day 2. And they let out the keynote, and we're all getting out there. And then everything was blocked because they were starting to serve a snack or something. It was like, LA Freeway or Jersey Turnpike Freeway. And I said to the person next to me, I was like, geez, this is crazy. And he looks over, he goes, dude, I watch your live streams. I'm a big fan. And so I said, hey, let's take a photo. So greetings, Ranjith. I don't know how to pronounce your name properly, so lo siento. So I was chatting with Ranjith, and he says, hey, he said we. So he said, we watch your videos. So I assume it's he and his team. So cheers to the PDG consulting team. Hope you're doing well. And then I saw him later in the conference. He says, Steve, he stopped me. He's totally serious. Like, Steve, you need to talk about AI. And I thought, I am the last person you want talking about AI. I know nothing about it. I'm just as lost as you. I can't make heads or tails of this thing. He says, no, you need to explain it. We want to hear your explanation. So, okay, I'll try. You know, gotta handle those requests. And then, completely unrelated, one cool thing that the hotel was a Coca-Cola hotel. So props to the Virgin Hotels Las Vegas for not being the Pepsi Hotel or Conference Center. It was all Coke all the time, and they had Coke Zero. Thank you. I was a very happy person. And they had the Cokes with the names on them. And so I collected most of my family, Audrey, Steve, and Sarah. They didn't have my wife, not surprising. But yeah, that was pretty cool to see. And they also even had Dude and Homie. So I was having a great time with my Coke Zeros. So that was a lot of fun. And on Tuesday, Martes, Directions Day 2 keynote. I attended part of it, but if you've attended those keynotes, it's kind of hard to follow after day 1. And there's a lot of ISV and marketing sponsors there. So I dipped outside in the beautiful morning Las Vegas weather and finalized my presentation. So gorgeous day, sat outside. They had this nice table area outside with palm trees and very nice. And then once I popped into a session, I attended the one and only world famous Eric Hogar. I think they were talking about how to properly pronounce his name, but you might know him as Eric Hogard. And he did a session on incorporating AI in an AL app. And in his usual fashion, if you've ever seen his YouTube videos, he live codes. So he got up there with a completely blank AL project, and he literally live coded in less than 30 minutes an app that will use AI in order to format an international address. And so it will take an address on a customer, it will detect the country, and it will use an AI engine to determine what the postal or address formatting standards are for that country, and it will reformat the address for you. Very cool. And in a little bit of sleight of hand there, he did have a full code unit in the background that he had prepared in order to call the different AI engines. And what was interesting was his code unit, I think, was wired up to call any number of different AI engines. So you want GPT-4o? Cool. You want Copilot? Cool. You want Claude? Cool. You want Gemini? And so he could switch between any of those. And he used a tool, I forgot it. It's like LM Labs or something like that. Oops, I'm peeking out on my audio, folks. Sorry about that. He used a tool like LM Labs or LM Workbench or something. I need to look it up. That allowed him to, I think, run these different models locally, if I'm not mistaken. So pretty impressive demo. And then I attended a session by Freddie, DevOps using ALGo. And Freddie has been screaming from the mountaintops for years about using a DevOps solution. And we implemented DevOps before ALGo was a glint in anyone's eye. And so we are on DevOps. We currently use Cosmo Alpaca with that to make our lives easier. But I wanted to watch Freddie's presentation for the 5th time, because every time I'm asking myself, should we be on GitHub? And I think my answer is no. It's like we're fine, given that we are using Cosmo Alpaca to help us facilitate everything. If we were not using Cosmo Alpaca and it's just straight DevOps, yeah, I'd probably recommend using GitHub and ALGo, because fighting with DevOps, get everything set up and get pipelines and projects and repos, it is so time consuming to do. So I would not recommend just raw DevOps. If that's your option, go with ALGo on GitHub. But if you're open using Cosmo Alpaca, which has many other benefits other than just setting up your projects and pipelines, I'd say, yeah, go for it. So either an option. I don't understand the architecture of AilGo for GitHub and how all those pipelines work, but it looks pretty straightforward. And then there was a sponsor, I apologize, I don't remember who it was, who sponsored headshots. And I got this headshot done, I believe it was in 2019 at the MVP Summit on the Microsoft campus. So I've been using that headshot for, 5-6 years now. And so I got a new headshot, and I need to kind of touch up the coloring and tone and exposure on this. It's a little bright for my tastes, but watch me age 20 years and 6 years. Look at that. So that is me getting older right before your eyes. And yes, look at the wrinkles, look at the gray hair, look at the vitiligo. Yep, I am falling apart, folks. But I have a new headshot. I've switched it out on my numerous social media influencer platforms. So it was a good day. And I then attended Sean Dorward's BC Copilot Life Hacks. And sorry, Sean, I could just barely stay conscious at that point. So I don't think I understood much of what was discussed there. Probably all good stuff, but kind of flew over my head. And then I headed out to dinner with a friend, my Vegas friend, and we had some We had some awesome Thai food at Wira Thai on Sahara Boulevard. Excellent, excellent Thai food. Wednesday, miércoles. The big day. Presentation number 1 was provide impressive customer support with the Business Central Admin Center API. And this was kind of slightly off the beaten path. And this was the story about how, because I have created the ERP Center of Excellence and the ERP Support Team program, and we now have 4 full-time interns in Berlin, El Salvador, how do I improve our support processes there? How do I make it easier for Jocelyn, David, Ronald, and Franklin to support our Business Central customers, Business Central partners? How do we get the information they need, make it accessible to them, put it at their fingertips without having to ask me, Alyssa, Tanya, and, log into 3 different systems, which we currently do. And yeah, so that was the story, and I'll kind of show what we are building to facilitate that. And then using the Business Central Admin API, of course. Presentation number 2 was avoiding a $1 million lawsuit. And this was oriented towards Business Central partners who might be at risk of being sued by a disgruntled or just vindictive customer. So in our presentation, we talked about a partner who overpromised, underdelivered, got in way over their head, and just got absolutely slammed by the lawyer and the very, very clever expert witness that was hired by the customer. They were clearly not joking around, and they were out for blood. So that turned a $150,000 project into a $1 million lawsuit, and it was not looking pretty. I only saw the customer side, the complaint and the expert witness testimony. Brutal. I don't know how you defend yourself against that much criticism. There's probably a way. I just don't know what it is. I know background on what the partner story was, so I was only dealing with half the story. But while we were in that presentation, a partner there, said that they had also been sued years ago and said, yeah, it is a no-win situation. When you get into a lawsuit, it's just no one wins. The customer is spending a ton of money. Well, I guess the lawyers win. Lawyers are making money left and right. You have to spend tons of money to defend yourself, and or your insurance company does, and it just doesn't work out. And the partner told the story about how they tried to settle, and apparently, I don't know if it was the customer or the partner who was too proud to settle, and what could have been, a $500,000 or $600,000 settlement turned into $1 million judgment and a loss for the partner. So you just can't win. And that was the story. Do not get to a point where you go to arbitration or lawsuit. It is very, very ugly. And then after the session, someone came up to me, and it was a different partner who was mid-implementation, 80% done. Then there was a change in management. They were going through the project. There were like some typical issues, but the new owner of the company, it was a family business, a new relative stepped in, just has this pattern of not being the nicest person in the world, and just sued the partner because they just wanted to. And so this partner's mid-implementation, like, what did I do? Got sued. And so now that partner is having to defend themselves. And, the partner's story is that nothing is wrong. So unclear what the lawsuit is about. So now that partner is having to defend themselves, bring in their insurance company, hire an expert witness. And again, very strange situations. And so if you think it could never happen to you, good luck with that. It can. Can you avoid it all the time? You can avoid it most of the time. Can you avoid it all the time? No. So just be aware of it. And that was Mark Rhodes. Thank you for joining us. Mark is from Continia, and he recounted the story of how he was with a partner years ago, and they got sued. And my lovely co-host, Tanya, she helped wrap it all up with recommendations on how we can potentially, as partners, try to avoid lawsuits. And then we headed out to dinner at, I think it was the Wynn. And this is a picture, not of blue dragonflies, unfortunately. They apparently misunderstood my request for their decor. I explicitly said, please provide blue dragonfly decor, but we instead got red dragonfly decor in the Wynn Hotel. And that is Tanya and Alyssa from Test Team. And then we had dinner with Reed from True Commerce, and we talked about EDI and how that works in the world of EDI and how that integrates with the ERP system. We have had limited interaction with EDI. We are not experts. We are not even novices. So I was asking Reed questions about how do we deal with a customer who wants EDI? And he had some great insight and recommendations on how we deal with that. So I'll be working with him to learn more about how do we, say, work with True Commerce to understand how do we even serve a customer who wants EDI. And then there was the big party out by the pool at the hotel. And it was a partner celebration with TMC and PAX 8. And everyone was dancing, and it was deafening. And then I went to bed around 11:30 because I was exhausted. And part of the presentation that we had with using the BC Admin API to improve customer support, we are building this internally. And it turns out that many partners are building this. And we are calling it the BC Admin Dashboard. And by we, I actually mean Franklin. Franklin is building the BC Admin API Dashboard, or BC Admin Dashboard, and it is like his third AL project. We only brought him on as a full-time intern in January. He'd never heard of Business Central, never heard of ERP, and he had never done any AL development or any, ERP development for that matter. So in just 3 months, 4 months now, 3 months, he is now developing this application where he is setting up a page. And my request is to surface as much information from the BC Admin dashboard or BC Admin portal, BC Admin Center, using the BC Admin API, surface as much data as possible on one page. And so you'll notice we have tenant information, tenant capacity, notification recipients, all right there at a glance. You don't have to click on capacity. You don't have to click on notification or recipients in the admin center, right? So in the admin center, you've got to click on 7 different things to see what's going on. I want everything right here. And then down in the list part, we see the environments listed. We have the environment, the version, we have the scheduled update date right there, security group, storage used by environment. And so surface everything on the page. And below the environment list part, we're going to have usage and perhaps apps, and basically with maybe one click tops, surface everything you can possibly find in BC Admin Center. So he has this prototype, and we're going to be developing that. And currently, he's just prototyping with one tenant. We are going to be eventually building it out for all of our customers. So one click in the customer, see everything. Our full support team can have access to all this information read-only. So one interesting comment that Shannon Mullins made at our dinner on Wednesday night. So if you don't know Shannon Mullins, she is a Business Central MVP. And we were talking about how some Business Central partners or ISVs are very possessive of their customers. And they're like, don't talk to my customer. No, we won't work with you, ISV, because you'll steal our customer, things like that. And it does happen, and it is problematic. But we were just talking about how Test Team Blue Dragonfly and her company, ABC Consulting, we don't really compete. And the reason is, well, two reasons. One, we kind of have different focus. So if a customer comes to us and says, we want, process manufacturing, we say, nope, we're out. We can bring on a manufacturing person, but it's not really our focus, whereas manufacturing is Shannon's focus. And if a customer goes to Shannon and says, we're a heavy project job costing shop, she'll say, nope, not really my focus. Tanya at Test Team does that. So in that regard, we have different focuses. But then her larger point was the Business Central opportunity pool is so huge, we just never run up against each other, right? We're talking to different people, different channels, different regions, and there's so much opportunity out there. You do not need to be competing with other Business Central partners. That should be the least of your concerns. And so if that is a primary focus, you're focusing on the wrong thing. So instead of being concerned about your competition, make relationships with other partners, with other customers, provide better customer service, build relationships with ISVs. It's about relationships, community, sharing, and helping. And so we had dinner with Reed at True Commerce. He's helping us understand EDI, and we're happy to work with him to have our customers work with him to, produce a good solution. Because I want our customers to be taken care of. So that was the goal. And, I was at a table where a partner actually called me an idiot right to my face. He says, I was explaining how the MVP program worked and how we share, we do contributions to the community, we provide source code, we do training, we do blogs, webinars, and we share. And he says, you're an idiot. He said that right to my face. And I was like, okay, good to know. And he says, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And he's one of these greedy partners. And he's like, my employees should never talk to you. They should never talk to any other partners. I don't want anyone talking to my customers. And I'm like, whoa, good luck with that, buddy. I will happily compete with you till, every single day until I am just absolutely beat. And I will win. Happy to give stuff to your customers for free to make it clear, that you're not providing them with a good experience. So anyway, that was a long rant. So yeah, that was Shannon's point. It's like, you're not competing with other partners. You are competing with yourself to just do a good job and to take care of your customers. Upcoming events, próximos eventos. Próximos eventos. Color Cloud, April 24th. Must be an old nav partner. I think it was actually an AX partner back in those days. It was several years ago. I think it was an AX partner, if I'm not mistaken. And his consultant who was sitting at a table with me, she looked very timid and shell-shocked. She was afraid to talk to people at the conference. It was, not a place you wanted to work for, clearly. Color Cloud is in Hamburg, April 24th and 5th. DynamicsCon is coming up very soon, May 13th and 16th in Chicago. I will see you there. Blue Dragonfly has a booth there in the convention hall, and we will be giving out some fun prizes. If you are not registered, go to dynamicscon.com, and if you need a discount registration code, search for one, ask for one, find one. I don't have one off the top of my head, but they are out there if you want a discount code for registration. Dynamics Minds, I've heard that is the hippest, coolest, funnest conference in the world. That is in Slovenia, May 26th through 28th. And so if you are on the younger side, younger than me, which isn't hard to do, head over to Slovenia, May 26th through 28th. Hang out with the hip, cool kids. Tanya and Shannon, I believe, will be there. And dynamicsminds.com. Summit NA is in October 20th through 23rd in Orlando. I believe Test Team and Blue Dragonfly are sponsoring a big old party there again, the BC Bash. And last year was in Texas was pretty phenomenal. It was quite the party. So summita.com, register, and I will see you there. And Thursday, Jueves, third-party API. Holy cow. I need to add language to our engagement letters, our statement of work, because I know this, I just need to make it explicit. Third-party APIs are an absolute landmine. They're a minefield. There is absolutely no way that you can know all of the potential issues, pitfalls, limitations, problems, quirks, annoyances, bizarre things a third-party API is going to throw at you with a BC integration. And the only way you will know those things within the scope of what you're working on is if you fully complete the project 100%. Until then, you have no idea what you're going to run into. So here's the conundrum. How do you quote, estimate, do any type of requirements prior to writing the code? I don't think you can. Unless you prototype the whole thing and spend, 16, 24, 40 hours building it all out and finding all those issues, there's no way you can do it. So I think we're going to put in our statement of work, back to the $1 million lawsuit thing. Look, this project involves, any project involving a third-party API is just a wild guess, and we make zero warranties, claims, promises, anything about the capabilities, functionality, or whatever with that API. And if that is not acceptable, I totally understand. We need to do a full prototype, and you're going to pay 40 hours in order for us to do that, to prove this out, analyze it, and verify that there are no gaps. Absolute nightmare. So we're dealing with this third-party API right now, and it's just like, what? They call invoices something else. Like, what? And they call a status, it's like paid or unpaid. It's like, what? It's not a status of entered, reviewed, workflow, whatever. It's like, whoa. And their values are like GUIDs. And so you got to go look those up somewhere. They don't have human readable values in the payload. So, and part of the structure of their application is just some hack that they repurposed to deal with multi-tenancy. It's just crazy, crazy mess that we're having to deal with. And so I'm sitting in the airport working on third-party API issues, and I'm sitting there looking at all these people, and this is just how my brain works, folks. Something popping into my head, and I'm looking at all these people sitting at the gates in this big terminal with planes taking off and landing, and I said, airports and planes are really just live animal transport system. That's all it is. We have a global live animal transport system for humans. And it was really funny. I just laughed at that. Like, these people just walk into this building, stand in line, sit down, do what they're told, bring this junk with them, this stuff on wheels. Then they get into this metal tube. They sit down. It is ergonomically designed for bipedal animals, just like you might have seen documentaries on racehorses or other valuable animals being transported in planes. And we sit in this metal thing and it transports our live animal community around the world. So that's what pops into my brain while waiting in an airport. And then on my flight home, I flew back to a different airport than I normally do. I normally have to fly out of LAX, but because this was just Vegas, I was able to fly out of Long Beach, and the plane takes a completely different route, which was fascinating. I didn't recognize anything I saw on the ground. And so let me see if I can find my notes here, because I was like, wait, what are these things? So this is Big Bear Lake. I was like, what is that? I didn't recognize it. So I had to go look at Google Earth, Google Maps. This is Big Bear Lake, where I've been many times. I've been up there to hang out at a cabin, been fishing, been skiing, ripped out the oil pan on a rock on the way down the mountain and was stuck there all night. Fun times. Yeah, that is what Big Bear Lake looks like from the sky. Really, really fascinating. And then we went on, and this is called Paris Reservoir. I'm like, that's really weird. It looks like a flood basin or something, because it's got that big concrete thing right on the end, but then it has an island. Like, how bizarre. So that's Paris Reservoir. And then right after that, there's this huge runway, and you could see the planes. So it's clearly a military installation, but there weren't really enough buildings to make it a military base. So I couldn't figure out what it was. At least it wasn't obvious. Apparently this is called March Air Reserve Base. So there were huge, like C-130 or whatever they're called, huge military transport planes on the tarmac there. Not very active looking. And then there was this very interesting thing on the ground. It's like, what in the world is that? It looks like almost like a catch basin for a liquid with this giant berm built around it, like some top secret, lab installation. But then there's an entrance. So clearly not for containing liquids or preventing water from coming out in case of a flood. So the only thing I could think of is it like some kind of weird, like a shooting range or something? But what's odd is there's so many buildings on it, it just didn't make sense. But I had to look it up, and apparently it's called RSO Range, and it looks like a law enforcement training facility for shooting range. And apparently there's an archery range nearby, which I don't quite know where that fits in, but apparently the little lines on the left side are the outdoor shooting range, and then they have buildings and training facilities. So I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense. So very, very interesting installation that I noticed. And then I noticed this, and I thought, wow, can you imagine having a house next to these massive open pits? And this reminded me of a documentary I saw where it was an old open pit mine, and the tailings, I think they call it, had produced this giant pool of water that was so toxic that if a bird landed on the water, it would literally give the bird cancer and poison it, and it would die, and it would kill all the waterfowl population in the area. So the city, county, township, state, whatever, has to hire people to go out there all the time to shoot guns to scare the birds away, to make a loud noise and to disrupt the water. And they've tried everything. They've tried balloons on the water. They've tried noisemakers, scarecrows, you name it. But the old school way of having people go out there and just shoot noisemakers to scare the birds away, bizarre. I don't know that that's the case here, but this apparently is the Cemex Corona concrete plant. Truly wild to see that from the air. Anyway, and Summit Roadshows, dynamicscommunities.com/Summit Roadshow. These are current as of April 10th. Washington, D.C. and Toronto in April, Minneapolis in May, Columbus, Chicago, and Philadelphia in June. And always check these dates by going to dynamicscommunities.com/Summit-Roadshow, because the dates do change. So attend that roadshow near you. And today is Friday, Viernes, and I have 7 minutes left. We have our multinational call this morning coming up. I don't know. Christopher says we are bringing back local user groups. Yes, through the Dynamics Communities Roadshow. We have our multinational team call coming up in a few minutes. And I have a support call with a report extension that a partner's having issues with. So I'm going to have a call to try to figure out what's going on there. It's a PTE and API integration design details call. I believe I call with the customer today to deal with that third-party API and work out the quirks with that and those payloads. The research mystery PTE is with Alyssa. That is going to be pushed off to Monday because she is exhausted from the conference. And then missing app source versions. Thanks to Ted for tracking this down. He had an issue where his BC environment would not upgrade to 26. It says your app source app is failing on BC 26. So he's like, what's going on? He's trying to figure out, why can't I upgrade to the latest version of this app source app that is listed in App Source? It is not listed in the BC Admin Center. Like, how can BC Admin Center be 1.5, but App Source shows 1.6? He literally couldn't upgrade. Uninstall, reinstall, it didn't work. It turns out, he thinks at this point, he found this issue, missing app source versions for some countries, which some countries includes like 26 different countries. And some apps were able to successfully go through automated app validation and be allowed to go live in Partner Center for App Source, but the new version was not available for installation in 20 different countries. The issue can cause versions of the same app to be available in some countries but not others. You may therefore experience your app's customers cannot hotfix to the latest version. That exactly describes the experience that Ted was having. And Microsoft's attempting to identify the exact apps, versions, and countries affected, and they're trying to figure out how to fix this. So he's kind of stuck. Very bizarre. Apparently, one workaround, unless you want to wait around for Microsoft to figure this out, would be for the ISV to push a new version into AppSource and get a new version to Marketplace and hope that syncs properly with BC Admin Center. The layers of infrastructure going on behind the scenes is a huge risk factor for everything. Business Central, Power Platform, you name it. So that's why, as I mentioned, I like direct. The fewer layers between me and the destination, the better. The more layers, the higher risk, the more problems you're going to have. So if this happens to you, you can go into whatever this portal is. Check out Ted's Twitter feed. He linked to it. It is the BC issues under help and support known issues. It's some Power Apps portal, horrible interface. You have to choose Business Central, active status. You'll see these. And the fun part is if you click on any of these, then click the back button, it refreshes the page and you have to refilter. Horrible, horrible interface. So there are, I believe, 10 or 11 active issues there. And you're just like, what? Going back to January 30th, 2025 open issue. Have fun, folks. All I got to say. Excellence update. Good times. Okay, coffee. Almost on cup 2, so I'm doing good. I was speaking with an ISV who is looking to expand into the Latin American region. And the challenge they are having is they are largely US based and they have great English speaking, sales, support, implementation, you name it. But they have limited ability to support customers who speak only Spanish. So I said, hey, let me make you an offer. I will find someone in Berlin, El Salvador, speaks fluent Spanish. They're working on English. They're in English lessons, but they're not quite fully proficient in English. And they could learn Business Central, learn your ISV solution, and they could be your implementation support resource and product support resource in Latin America. serve all Spanish-speaking countries. And so they were going to go back and talk to their management about it. But in the meantime, we're just going to do it. We have 2 resources in Berlin, El Salvador, who are already in English class or have completed English class, and they now both have laptops and they have already started to learn Business Central. The moment I mentioned this, they got started learning. So that's how we roll in Berlin. So we will have 2 Spanish-speaking, Latin American-oriented Business Central consulting and ISV resources coming online in a couple months. And I'm also looking into speaking to Shannon. She says, look, I really need an executive assistant who can just help me coordinate the realities of trying to run a business and life. So El Salvador has many, what's called an executive virtual assistant. It's a very common thing. You're basically nearshoring your virtual assistant. And I've seen these listings before. So I have found a list of candidates for virtual assistant in El Salvador, English speaking. And we're going to see how that goes. Hopefully someday we can have those resources in Berlin. But for now, they're in different places throughout El Salvador. And custom coffee. I have placed an order for 30 bags of coffee from Good Beans, El Salvador, and Gabe has custom roasted, custom packed 30 bags of coffee for us. I think we have 20 bags of Toragos and 10 bags of Pacamara to be offered as prizes and giveaways at DynamicsCon at our booth. So I will be picking those up in about a week in El Salvador and our trip, and bringing those back to the US for our conference booth. And at the office in Berlin, El Salvador, we are doing all new electrical. And that is because the house has original electrical. It's a bit of a mess, and there's only like one outlet in each room. One light switch in each room. It's really kind of sketchy. So we have hired an electrician to rip everything out. He's even ripped the old electrical boxes out, replaced the electrical boxes. He's replacing all of the wiring. Literally every single wire in the house is going to be redone. So that's pretty cool. A bit of an investment. You see, we have a new electrical panel there, all new boxes in the walls. So that's being done this week while we have a couple people on vacation. And yeah, so by next week, we should have all new electrical outlets, like at least 4 outlets in each room to support our office. And with that, I'm going to wrap up, hop on our multinational team call. And with that, you will see a screenshot where Mike Morton and others tried to use AI-generated images in their presentations. And like, I get it, but it looked really sloppy, especially when those images had misspelled words. And if you just look closely, you'll see what I mean. Like 1, 2, 3 words were misspelled. It was just all over the place. It looked kind of bad. It's like, just, I don't know. I get it, but yeah. So with that, cheers. Thank you for attending, Mo. Okay. On to cup number 2 and on my next call. Have a good Friday. Learn something. Go learn some Business Central. Have a good weekend. Que tengas un buen fin de semana. Hope I said that right. Anyway, adios. Talk to you later. And I am out of here.